now that the principles of this course have been concluded, all the love principles I wanted to talk about have been concluded, where do we go from here? That's what I wanted to talk about in today's video. So the first thing is to really just start observing the love that you already have in your life. Okay? Come to understand what's happening in your life and which parts are love. And find the things that are love, maybe not the kind of love you thought they were, but they are love. Okay? You might have some hard love going on in your life, giving it or receiving it. Or you might have some charitable love going on in your life, giving it or you're receiving it. And you might not be appreciating that because you're so focused on trying to find committable, sustainable love. So start by just really observing all the love patterns you have in your life, all the relationships in your life, your relationship to the foundations of your life like work and home, and see what kind of love you're having. Okay? And if you truly don't find there's any type of love in there, it's not charitable, it's not hard, it's not the sustainable love, then recognize that, wow, I actually have something that the only way to make it love is to love it and leave it. Okay? And that might be the case. So get the clarity on the love you have in your life to begin with. Okay? You can have some great people in your life that you might be frustrated with because they're not giving you the love that you want, that you think you want. But if you step back and look at it, you'll go, oh wait, I'm experiencing this kind of love. Be satisfied in the kind of love you have. The first thing we need to do is just get centered with the love we actually have so we can appreciate what we actually have in our life that is somehow useful. And so we can, and also we can recognize where others can appreciate us because we're being somehow useful in their lives. And then we start having a foundation for loving relationships. And from there, start doing the steps to have the specific kinds of love that you want, which, really are the committable, sustainable, two-way street loves that everyone's looking for. That, we all need those the most because those are our foundations, our lasting foundations. Because that's the only kind of love that can last, okay? To do that, most of it is about working on yourself. It's not about running out and finding a new person. Okay? If you just run out the door and find a new person, you're just going to hit the same you're just going to encounter the same experiences. You have to work on yourself. Okay? As you work on yourself and you make your personal shifts, you start breaking free from your patterns, you recognize more who you are, and therefore you understand what love really means to you, what really will feel for love, will really feel as love to you. As soon as you start making those shifts, love will start showing up. More workable love will start showing up. Okay? If you don't, whoever shows up next isn't going to be any more workable. Whatever situation comes next is just going to be a reiteration of your non-working patterns. So 90% is about shifting into a better relationship with yourself so you can experience a better quality of love in your life. Okay? And as soon as you do that, you'll attract, you'll bring towards you, you will encounter along the way relationships that are going to be more workable than your previous ones. Okay? Alright. Any type of self-help system, any type of self-help system, counseling or techniques that are going to get you more in touch with who you are, going to make you find out what really that helps you find out what you're really inspired to do, what your true needs are, and most importantly, which breaks you free from your limited and restricted patterns that you've been following, is going to be useful. Okay, and there's so many things that we can do that are useful in this way. Okay, but these are the tools that you're going to need to use to win your war. The war that's going to, war really ultimately with yourself. The war to have a healthy relationship with yourself, and therefore healthier relationships with others. You're going to need some tools. Okay, you don't want to go into this war unarmored, without a weapon. Okay? So, I advocate the use of astrology. Okay? For me, astrology is a big part of my process. And I've mentioned this in some of the previous videos, and I'll mention it again. So, if you're getting an astrology reading by a competent astrologer, studying the important astrology courses that are geared towards what I'm talking about here. Okay. For that, I really recommend the Lajitadya Bhaskara's Master Course. That's basically a course where you analyze your planets and you see if they're contributing to patterns, ways of being, habits that are making your life work, habits that are coming out of a negative relationship with yourself, or if they're indicating habits, patterns, ways of being, relationship with yourself that's healthy and causing your life to work. And the planets that have been used habitually in a way that's not productive, that's just getting you into more and more painful circumstances over and over again, how to, most importantly, change those habits. Like, what habit do you want to adopt instead? Because our life, ourselves, we're a product of our habits. So we have to really change our habits. So this course is really designed for you to see your habits, the working ones and the non-working ones, and to teach you to focus on the non-working ones and turn those non-working habits into good habits. So for instance, we're in the habit of eating, right? All right, depending what we're eating, we're going to be healthy or unhealthy. Our health is dependent about our habitual eating patterns, okay? Now, with ourselves, we have a certain habit of responding to love. Is that habit a junk food habit, which is not going to make love work, which is going to make your love life sick? Or is that habit a health food habit, one that will make your love life work? Okay? If not, you have to turn it, you have to change your diet and how you respond in that situation. So in every situation, we're responding to different things in different ways, and we have to respond in habitually good ways that work, essentially. And that's what this course is all about. You also can find astrologers who work with this method of astrology, okay? After that, I really recommend the Healing Rahu and K2 course. Rahu and K2, the north and south nodes of the moon, they have a lot to say with our survival patterns, like it has to be this way patterns, okay? Where we can be really stuck in one area of life and really completely unable in another area of life. And that's always going to impact our relationships, okay? And a big part of any relationship is to break a person free of those Rahu K2 patterns. So if you understand those Rahu K2 patterns, then you can work with them and shift into them healthily instead of having to get beat up by life, okay? And it'll make your relationships a lot easier to understand the stuff in this course, okay? Now, in the body below the video, I'm going to put the links to those courses, but also I have some of the beginning videos of those courses and some videos from those courses on YouTube that are free, and I'll also put those videos down below where you can just catch some of those videos from the course and see if it's something you vibe with, that feels like it's something that could work for you. The other course I have is probably the least important course for these purposes, but I still think it's helpful. I think the other ones are the two main ones. And that's the Lajitadya Bhaskara's Heart of Parashara course. And that's a course of seeing how the planets are contributing to our mental and emotional and physical health, essentially. If we're using our planets in a way that's hurting our emotional and mental health, it's going to really cause us problems in our love lives, right? Because you have to be emotionally and mentally healthy to have a productive love life, okay? So if you have patterns, mental and emotional patterns that are sabotaging an enjoyable emotional experience or sabotaging your attitude about things, then you can't be happy in a relationship, okay? I don't have any free videos on YouTube to that course, but I will put the link to that course should people get through the first two courses I mentioned and want to take that third one, okay? Astrology has been a huge part of my process, okay? Along the lines of astrology, I actually think human design is a great system for helping people get in touch with who they really are. for those who know about human design, the whole focus is get in touch with your authority, your inner voice that's going to say yes or no to everything that's coming at you so you make the right healthy choices. Okay? Now, it's really good stuff, but I find a lot of people get stuck on listening to their inner voice. Okay? Listening to what they, in human design, they call their authority, which is the part of them that actually has the wisdom to make decisions, as compared to the mind, which really doesn't have the clarity to make good decisions for us, okay? And it's really, really difficult to listen to our authority in accordance with human design principles because we're so much out of the habit of not listening to it. The Lajitadhyavashtas, which I mentioned in that, that first astrology course I talked about, when we're using a planet with a good habit, we're actually using it in accordance with our inner voice. If we're using a planet with a bad habit, we're not listening to our inner voice or our authority when we're using that planet. That's the planet when our authority says, do this, we go, no, I'm going to do something else. And so the information in that Lajitadhyavashta's master course is what you need to be able to actually listen to your inner voice and follow the idea of human design, of listening to your inner authority. Those of you who've tried to follow human design are like, I can't, so many people say to me, but I don't even hear my authority. I mean, it's like there's nothing within me saying yes or no, ever, you know? So they're not getting that inner voice guidance. The reason if we struggle with getting that or don't get it at all is because our wounded patterns, our hurt patterns are making the decisions for us instead of our inner voice. The Lajitadhyavashtas helps us understand what those patterns are and helps us understand how we're sabotaging listening to our inner voice, to our intuition. Okay? And without that guidance system, we just run amok. Okay? So by recognizing where we stop listening to what we really have to do and stop listening to what we really have to choose and understanding why we're doing that, we can shift into a healthy habit of listening to that inner self prompting us to, act in our life. Okay? So I really recommend human design, but I find if you want to cut through the human design stuff 5 times faster, study the Lajitadhyavashta's master course. Okay? All right. The other thing, and I consider human design an aspect, it's a part of the big body of astrology. It deals with planets, positions in the sky. It just uses a different division of the sky, of the celestial belt that the planets travel through. It's called the ecliptic. Then does zodiacal astrology, but it's a very effective system. Okay, so in addition to astrology in any type, I think sincere spirituality is a huge help in trying to work through the difficulties we have to encounter as we, try to have more love in our lives. Because ultimately, we have as much love in our lives because of the patterns that we're stuck in, the behaviors that we're stuck in. We have these reactive behaviors. We have reactive ways of being. And many of these ways we naturally react and respond are not natural. They're coming out of trauma and pain and wounds. And they're not serving us well. Everything I've talked about before is to get you away from those patterns. That's really what we have to succeed in. Once those patterns, we're free of those patterns, we can start choosing love that works. But while those patterns have the hold on us, we're stuck, okay? Everything I'm talking about here, all these things I advocate to use, are really just to break you free from these reactive patterns that are ruining your life, okay? There's these things you always or never do that are causing you to have your problems, okay? So one of the big ones is sincere spirituality. Now what do I mean by sincere? This is the key word here. Sincere spirituality means it has an attitude of true surrender to it. In my opinion, if you don't have an attitude of true surrender, you're not spiritual. If I'm going to measure someone's spirituality, I'm measuring their capacity to surrender. That's all. That's my only yardstick. They could be stupid, they could never have heard of Brahma. I don't care. If they have a capacity to surrender, they are spiritual giants in my definition. Okay? Because surrender is where we demonstrate spirituality, I think. Okay? Spirituality is all about there's a force greater than my limited understanding. There's a force greater than me. There's a force greater than what I think and what I know. Okay? And I prove it by surrendering to that force. I don't care what you want to call that force. It's all the same to me. What I care about, are you capable of surrendering to it? Because if you don't surrender to that force, then we surrender to our reactions. Okay? And I think being able to surrender to a greater force than ourselves, the God, the divine, whatever you want to call it, the Tao, to your horoscope, whatever you want to call that greater force. By surrendering to that, it gives you the option to not respond to your pattern. You know, because see, your pattern is saying, if you don't do this, you're screwed. And so you do something that ruins your relationship. You want to be loved, and you feel scared, and you start defending yourself against that love, and the next thing you know, the person feels like you're unlovable and leaves. So we have to stop following those patterns, because these patterns are like thinking that our subconsciousness thinks these patterns, these behaviors that are really not making our life work, are what are going to save us. Okay? The reason these patterns are doing that, because they're so deeply anchored in an experience that the subconsciousness is holding on to. And so it still thinks it needs to defend against that, to protect you against it. This pattern is a good thing in isolation. Meaning if in the right situation, protecting yourself in the way we protect ourselves is the right thing to do. But if you get stuck in a pattern of always protecting oneself, then you start excluding things. You start protecting yourself from things that you should let in, for instance. You run from what's healthy. Like if you got poisoned because someone fed you some food, if you run away, you need to run away anytime that person feeds you food. You need to run. But if someone poisons you and you ate the food, and so you decide to run away from food the rest of your life, you're going to be a starved, malnourished person. And that's what these patterns do. Okay? Any hint of it being similar to that painful, traumatic, poisoning event will make us want to follow that pattern. So somebody touches you. There's a pattern of, I got hurt when I got touched. So when someone touches you, there's a pattern that says, all right, you have to disconnect when someone touches you, because the times that you got touched when you were 2 or 3 years old, you had to disconnect to survive it. So now someone touches you with care and love, and you're still disconnecting. You know, we follow these little promptings of these patterns. The subconscious is looking for any hint of similarity. And then it blows that hint of similarity into the whole picture and responds as if it's being threatened. Okay? So, if we don't have something greater to surrender to, all we have is that pattern to follow. Okay? If we really develop true spirituality, then we start developing a faith. That only comes with faith that there is something to surrender to. Okay? I can surrender to this experience because I believe God is omnipotent and omnipresent, and that somehow this experience is going to be supportive and healthy to me. Even if it doesn't feel good. Even if it ends up hurting me in a way. You know? That's one thing I've always done. I surrender to the experience. I'm like, I believe that God, anything He puts in front of me is an experience that's here to help me somehow. And a lot of those experiences really end up being painful experiences. But I don't respond I have to get away from that. I surrender to it, and I discover what it is that God wants that experience to teach me. Okay? And an experience can teach you something by being a beautiful experience, and it can teach you something by being a hard experience. God's going to give you the experience you need to teach you what you need at that moment. That's I have a faith in that. That helps me surrender to the experiences as they come. Okay? So that's just an example. So we need some element of surrender. Realize there's a bigger picture. There's a bigger something that we can begin to trust. Okay? And if you can do that, it can really help you break out of your patterns. Because without that, all you have is your patterns, you know? Okay? I think homeopathy is a great system for helping us deal with mental and emotional patterns that are getting in the way of our behavior. You know, behavior can be healed, unhealthy behavior, unhealthy feelings, even wrong ideas can be healed with homeopathy. But to really heal them, I find that homeopathy is like a supercharger. Okay? If you have an issue that you're consciously working on, a behavioral issue, an emotional issue, some issue that you're constantly aware of and gaining awareness of, and you take homeopathy, it's like just putting the heel to the steel and boom, you can blow through that issue so much faster than if you don't have the homeopathy. Okay? But I feel a person really needs to be making some conscious effort to grow and heal and understand to really benefit fully from homeopathy. Okay? It's like one of those things. If you're already running in a certain direction towards health, and then you get a little push in the same direction, it's like, woo, you can really move. But if you're running in the opposite direction of where you need to be healed, a little push isn't going to do as much. Okay? It could take a lot longer for that push to make a difference. Okay? So I do encourage homeopathy with classical homeopaths and with homeopaths who've studied under George Vathulkas. Now, a classical homeopath, George Vathulkas trained homeopath, is only going to give you one remedy, one dose of one remedy, and then he's going to wait, generally about a month, to see how it impacts you. They're not going to tell you to take 2 pills a day for the next 6 weeks. Okay? I don't recommend homeopaths who treat in that way. Okay? One little dose, one tender little shove towards the direction of health. That's classical homeopathy. That's how it works most effectively and most safely. Okay? So you can find someone who practices that method. You can go to them and they're going to want to know how you feel, what frustrates you, what you're like personally. They're going to take all that into account as they find a remedy that can help balance you. The way this helps is because our energy systems are out of balance, because we've been through stress and trauma, and so we start responding with an imbalanced energy system. The homeopathy helps us balance the energy system, and through that we start responding with a healthy energy system. Because our responses and reactions to things are simply based on how our energy system is. You know, if you don't sleep for 3 days, your energy system's like, and you're going to respond differently to the people who come up in your life, right? You'll be more cranky and frustrated. Or if you get enough sleep, you're going to respond in a different way. Okay? So it's important to maintain a balance in our energy system, and I feel like homeopathy is a super powerful way to bring our energy systems into balance and thereby help us operate and behave and feel the way we want to, because we're not working against this imbalanced energy system. Okay? Breath work can be helpful. I've seen a lot of people get benefit from breath work, where they get in touch with some of the deep, hidden, buried stuff. They help to release it, and in that release help heal it. Okay? And once it's healed and released, it helps. See, a lot of the stuff that's making the most trouble in our lives, that's making the most bad decisions in our life, are the buried things. Okay? Things that we don't want to get in touch with, that we decided to push so deep into the subconsciousness that we don't even know they're there. And the deeper something's pushed into your subconsciousness, the more impact it's actually having. That's the scary thing. The traumas that you don't even remember haven't happened, they're the ones that are ruling your life the most. Talk about a conspiracy theory. You're supposed to be the king of your kingdom. And there's these little things in your subconsciousness, these little man behind and woman behind the scenes, the little secret society buried deeply into your subconsciousness that's pulling all the strings of your kingdom. So you really have to get in touch with those things. Astrology can help show them to us, see what they are. Homeopathy can help heal those. Spirituality can give us something to surrender to, and therefore take the power away from those covert beings in our subconsciousness. And breath work can simply help a person get in touch with that. When you're in touch with it, you can heal it, you can embrace it, you can process it, and then that behind the scenes force that was guiding your life is no longer guiding your life. Okay? NLP, or neuro-lingual programming, can help you, follow healthier patterns. Neuro-lingual programming impacts your subconscious mind, where all the forces within us that are hijacking us are located. And so we can essentially reprogram the subconsciousness towards health, towards healthy behaviors, healthy outlooks, healthy relationships, healthy habits, instead of following the unhealthy aspects of all those things that might be lingering in our subconsciousness. Okay? There's something called EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. This is a system to also help break you free from your subconscious patterns. Okay? And this subconsciousness, this force we have within us, it's there to protect us. It remembers things and therefore wants to protect us from harmful things. But it can remember things so strongly that it can overprotect us. Look at it as an overprotected mother. Yes, one time you fell down and hit your knee, and now mother never lets you walk again. That's overprotective, right? That's kind of what the subconsciousness is. You had some severe trouble, not just a skin knee. You had a severe something. And your subconscious said, I'm going to protect from any chance of that ever happening, so I'm never going to let you leave the house again. And it's too extreme of a protector. So we have to start getting in touch with it and let it know that we're capable of doing more things healthily and safely now. And we have to break free from its hold. Okay, we have to re-educate the subconsciousness, basically. Okay, and we have to free ourselves from the hold of the subconsciousness. That's so important. See, when we free ourselves from the hold of the subconsciousness, we'll have more working experiences, and then the subconsciousness will experience something working and adopt a new pattern right away. It just needs a working experience. It needs things that help it break free, and then it starts shifting and changing a person. Any working experiences we have is making our subconsciousness believe that something that was something to run from and protect from to be rather something to embrace. Okay? So emotional freedom technique is another way to break free from that hold of the subconsciousness, why it's trying to drag you down. So instead of pulling you away from your goal, pulling you away from where you want to go, you can escape it and go along go in the direction you want to go with your life. Okay? There's lots of other methods. I just wanted to mention a few. Okay? Now, the other thing is, as you start to practice the principles in this course, and you start talking to your partner about what kind of love do we really have here? Let's get real. Okay? You're going to find it can be really, really challenging at times. Okay? Especially if you've been following some difficult patterns. That means, a lot of your relationship life is based on what's not you, what's not really right for you, what's not really right for them. And all your wounds, are just in a place to get hurt. And so you can run into a lot of painful conflicts and discussions with your partner that can get overwhelming. So there's hard work to be done ahead, okay? But it's helpful to have others to talk about, as you start practicing this. It's helpful for others to have you to talk with, as you start practicing this. So I decided to make a Facebook group. It's Having More Love in Your Life Facebook group, okay? Where people can meet and talk about these principles in their lives. People can meet and share. I'm hoping that people will connect and get together on Skype or Zoom or whatever, or on the phone, and support each other in these principles. I'm hoping that people will meet and, do mediation with each other's partner, where you meet someone and you say, okay, me and my partner are trying to figure out what kind of love we're having in our lives, and we get so frustrated we can't get through it. We need a mediator. We need someone that says, hey, shut up, let her talk. Shut up, let him talk. Do you guys understand each other? Some kind of mediator that you guys can offer mediation in friendship with each other. So this will help. I think this has helped tremendously. I don't think this is such difficult stuff that you need a certified therapist to help you with this. I think this is really easy stuff that is hard to do. And that if you have someone to help you who understands it, who's taken the course, can be there and help each other, I think it can go a long ways in helping all of us be successful in this, okay? So that's one of the main reasons I'm creating this, or have created this Facebook group, okay? The other thing is, on the group, I'll be putting, healers, astrologers, counselors who are familiar with this course, who have taken this course, who believe and like the principles in this course. So if you want a more professional help, you can go to one of them, especially on the level of the astrologers, because you're not going to just casually meet people who know the astrology, which is years of work to learn, as compared to this course, which is a couple weeks to bomb through this course. Okay? And then there'll also be the astrologers and other practitioners. And as I find people who've done this course who have something to offer, some type of therapy, some kind of healing modality that they can offer, I will put them up on that Facebook group as well. Okay? Sadly, I'm overworked as it is. I can't really start reading a bunch of horoscopes for people or acting as a mediator with people. It's simply not possible. So by creating this group, I give you all an opportunity to find other people to do that kind of stuff with. Okay? So I hope this is something that people can benefit from. And I will put the address to that Facebook group down in the comment section, or I'm also going to put some astrology videos that you guys can jump on and stuff. Okay? So again, the principles of this course are really, really easy. The thing that makes it most difficult to succeed in following those principles is simply our unconscious patterns to protect ourselves and keep us from harm. But that doesn't work. Those patterns just put us in another type of train wreck. So I hope everyone can find the healing that they need to really work with these principles. Anyone who's having trouble in their love life to where you'd even care to listen to that course has some healing to do to be able to really consciously choose love more. Because this really is a choice of consciously choosing love. What makes that so hard is that a lot of our definitions of love are, love is something that hurts. This is love. It's not even a working, beautiful, feeling good, supportive thing. But that's what we will get pulled to as love. So it's really important that we recognize that choosing love consciously is making a choice to really experience a beautiful love that's truly working. And depending on how much you've been through, of how much life has taken your definition of love and twisted it inside and out, a truly beautiful love might not feel like it at first. It might feel weird. It might not feel as passionate, as exciting. You might not feel that chain on your heart just pulling you over there. And if that's the case, it's because you still have some healing to do. Because these patterns, they've defined love for you. There's this desperate love we all carry within us. And if every time we choose that, we're just going to hurt and suffer and not get anywhere. So we start choosing a conscious love. As we choose it consciously, we'll start going, wow, this is beautiful. Wow, I didn't know this existed. Wow, this is what I was always hoping for. Wow, I have peace instead of desperation in my heart. You know, that's what we're all going to be looking for, a piece of love, not a love that is accompanied with peace, not a love that is accompanied with desperation. Okay? That's how you can tell what kind of love it is. You have connection and peace. That's the love you want. Desperation and sometimes connection is not what we're looking for here. Okay? If you're experiencing desperation in your love of any type, then you have some healing to do. And one of the best ways to do that is to recognize the non-desperate loves in your life, to recognize how those are love, appreciate that feeling, and continue to experience that. Because we have to retrain our experience of love, literally, because our experience of love is based on our experience with our parents. If you think about it, you think, my experience is growing up with my parents. Would I ever say this is a model of love? Unless your answer is yes. And for some people it actually will be. Congratulate those people. But for most people, that's not going to be their picture of what they would call love. But if that's what you have, that's still what your subconsciousness is going to identify and define as love. So, if your picture of love does not match the picture of your relationship with your parents growing up, then you need to start painting a new picture through experiencing workable, peaceful love. So as you start doing this, principles in this course, it's all about finding a love that's real, that's really going to work, that's useful and beautiful. Okay? But your most passionate self might not identify that as love for a while, because it's identifying this scenario of you growing up as love. So even though your conscious mind, after hearing this course, says, oh, of course that's what love is, of course that's what I want to follow, be aware. Your subconsciousness is lagging behind your consciousness. Your subconsciousness is pulling you towards that. And so you have to be firm and sail towards what you know is love by definition now. And recognize that as you experience that, you're going to get thirsty and thirsty and thirstier for it, because it's really what you've always wanted. And one day, all of you, all parts of you will be embracing that kind of working love and really saying, this is love, and recognizing that this was not love. And that can take time, okay? I think that's the hardest part of the journey, actually, okay? That can take time. And once you start experiencing that, you're going to realize that's what you really want. It's kind of like when a person realizes they need to stop smoking cigarettes. It doesn't mean the cigarettes aren't pulling on them for years. But the more they start experiencing life without smoking cigarettes, and they're free of all the trouble of smoking their cigarettes, they start embracing what's healthy. Okay? It's like changing your diet. If you've been eating junk food and you try to eat healthy, there's this part of you that's getting pulled to eat that junk food all the time. But the longer you eat the healthier food, the more you get pulled to eat the healthier food. And then the junk food doesn't even look good eventually. It might take 10 years, okay? And then that junk food, just smelling it, makes you go, ooh, how did I ever eat that stuff, you know? So recognize that the same thing's happening in love. It's going to take time before every part of you is craving the healthy love. There's this desperate part that's craving the cigarette, the junk food love. And you have to be strong against that. And when you start feeling that love, you ask yourself, is that useful? Is that love? Then why do I want to go there? You know? And that can keep you from going there. And the faster you heal, the faster you're going to be able to get away from that kind of pull, which is not going to serve you well. Okay? And I hope that as everyone does this, you start finding a truly beautiful experience of love that has the emotional connection, that has the usefulness to where your life can really go forward, that's accompanied with the peace that's been the thing you've always been craving. And a peace that becomes so great, there's no more of this desperate stuff going on anymore. Okay? All right, that's it. Thank you.